Today we're gonna tell you the storyline of a movie called Last Man Down, from the year 2021. Telling us the story of an ex-Special Force bulky guy, who defects himself from the crew, after his beloved wife was murdered in front of his eyes, by his own commander, and had isolated himself in the woods to wait for the right time for him to avenge his wife's death. And without wasting any more time, let's get straight to the video. But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing, and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. The movie starts with an intense scene where John Wood, who was a Special Forces member, tied in a chair, and was being interrogated by his commander named Stone. And there was also John's wife, who was kidnapped for Stone to use to threaten John. There was a pandemic that occurred in the area of Westburg with only 5,000 population, where 3,000 of them were already killed by the deadly virus, and 1,500 of them were still treated in the local hospitals. Which means that there were 500 people who were still roaming around the area. And Stone suspected that John had intentionally relinquished them from the military's watch. But then John defended himself by saying that by the time his squad arrived, those susceptible people were already gone. But Stone seems not so satisfied by John's answer. Stone then grabs John's wife and threatens to shoot her. John was shocked and tried to break free to save his wife, but sadly he was helpless and ended up watching his wife's death before his eyes. 3 years later, John lived in a secluded place by the woods, where he went through his days with a broken heart, lamenting his wife's death. And besides the memory of his late wife, he was also still haunted by the psychopathic face of Stone, and all other soldiers who killed the infected innocents, with no second thought. Which extremely angers John, and made him stand against the Special Force, to defend the people. But then he was considered a traitor instead. He had lost his wife, and was stamped as a traitor. Even worse when Stone said that John's wife was infected, and he had made the right call to shoot her. Of course, John was mad about it, since it turns out that Stone had never done any test on her. Stone was also questioned about John's self, because he was the only one he knew who had a high immunity towards the virus. And because of that, John was sent to a research facility as a research subject for the scientist. Until they realized that it was a terribly wrong decision. Because John was extremely strong, and he effortlessly managed to escape the research facility, and disappeared. Back to John's place, when he was warming himself near a bonfire, he was suddenly startled by the appearance of an unknown lady from the woods. She was wounded, staggered, and suddenly passed out. Seeing that, John then immediately helped her. The next day, the unknown lady was shocked when she woke up in a stranger's house. John then convinced the lady that he meant no harm, and was about to help her. He also said that there was a bullet in her body that needed to be taken out, to prevent any fatal infections. She was left with no choice, since there was John only around her to help at that time. But before John took the bullet off of her, she introduced herself as Maria. And soon after that, John immediately took the bullet from her back.
Maria.
John was shocked when he saw the bullet, because it has a tracker chip on it. And he was sure that Maria was Stone's fugitive. Moreover, when he saw a barcode tattooed on Maria's wrist, John then let her stay there for some time to heal. But he told her to leave as soon as she was healed, so that she wouldn't lure Stone to his place. Several days there, Maria then decided to help John by splitting some firewood. But then John prevented her from doing so, since he felt that he still could do it by himself. When she was inside the house, John was suddenly approached by some uninvited guests, who turned out to be the soldiers in charge of tracking infected. John ignored them at first, up until they forcefully entered his house. Which angers him, and made him wipe them all off. And when he entered his house to check on Maria, he saw a jaw-dropping sight instead, where the soldiers were already defeated by Maria. After killing the soldiers, he then gets rid of the bodies, with Maria behind him, who was shocked by John's weapon storage. John then explained that it was all his preparation for a war, without telling her who he was about to war against. And to stop her from asking any question, John then gave her a mop, and told her to clean the blood on the floor instead. On the other side, at the military headquarters, there were two people, namely Granite and Feldspat, who were waiting for their subordinates to return with Maria. But then they were left with no signs of them, and decided to send another squad. Left in a bad mood, Granite then challenged some of her subordinates there to a fight. And it turns out that she was way stronger than them, and managed to defeat them all. Soon after the fight, she was approached by Aidan, because she had beaten the soldiers who were supposed to be his subordinates. Back to John, who starts to worry, since his hideout was found by the special forces. And he also drew suspicions to Maria, as it was too much of a coincidence for her to be there that night. But then seeing no sign of danger from her, John decided to let her stay a bit longer. They were getting closer and closer, and he started to open up to her about his late wife. The next day, John started to set a defense scheme, as anticipation for if the special forces decided to send more squad there. He built a sandbag bunker and a trench for shootout, and sealed his house, and prepared himself for a who-knows-when war. After an all-day preparation, John and Maria were then seated near a bonfire for dinner. And in the middle of their conversation, Maria suddenly mentioned about a vaccine, where she told John that she was the vaccine for the deadly virus. And she ran away, after knowing that the vaccine would be misused, while she wanted the vaccine to be used as intended, to cure the people. Hearing that, John suddenly changed his mind, and refused to help her any further, for it was too risky for him. But Maria then begged him to help her, for the sake of the people, and to avenge John's wife's death. Hearing that, John then decided to work together with Maria, because however, he still felt the need to get revenge on the people who betrayed him, and to avenge his wife's death. John then immediately prepared the weapons for their war. While he cleaned his pistol, he then asked Maria about her fighting skill the other day. She then told John that she actually had been in a robbery before, and was being imprisoned for it. The next day, they do a shooting practice, where John taught Maria, who was not used to using any firearms before. That day, John's house was visited by the soldiers again, just like before. Without knowing that the lumberjack they were about to say hello to wasn't an ordinary lumberjack. When John was about to enter his shed, the soldiers then followed him silently, thinking that John was off guard. But then,
Good night.
John managed to kill 2 of the soldiers, which left the one remaining soldier in fear, and took Maria hostage, assuming that John wasn't going to make any move to it. But John was fully prepared. Maria then finally managed to break free, while John came out from the shed with his bow, and finished the last soldier right away. After that attack, John then invited Maria to prepare themselves more, because he was sure that Stone had also prepared another wave. Sure enough, Stone was preparing his next wave at that time. Meanwhile, John and Maria were also preparing the welcome party for the special forces, from bows and guns to explosives. They then also set a gasoline trap, so that the soldiers who went through that path would be burned to death. John even covered his face with paint. Soon after, John told Maria to collect some water for them. But when she was about to scoop her bucket on the riverside, she was shocked by the Special Forces squad, pointing their guns at her from behind. And there, Maria managed to be captured. But when the Special Forces squad were off guard, John suddenly appeared, and massacred them. John and Maria then went back to the house to stand by, and to prevent any intruders from silently attacking them. John then immediately shot the intruders who managed to reach his house. While on the other hand, it turns out that Feldspad had survived, and immediately went to Stone to report about the condition. Their Stone still didn't know that he was fighting against John Wood, so he underestimated him. Meanwhile, John and Maria were still clearing their area from the never-ending Special Forces troops. But then Maria was suddenly attacked by a female soldier, and she had to fight her by herself, because John was still busy with the other intruders. But then, she cunningly used an assault rifle to kill the female soldier, instead of fighting her bare-handed. On the other hand, Stone ordered Granite and her subordinates to assassinate the lumberjack. Stone's subordinates started to show up one by one, but there, John and Maria weren't afraid, especially Maria, since she knew that they wouldn't kill her. And the news about Stone's overwhelmed squads finally arrived in his ears, and made him feel anxious, and was curious about who the lumberjack truly was. Meanwhile, every John and Maria defense scheme went flawlessly, where they managed to wipe off dozens of the Special Forces soldiers. And after clearing the last squad, John told Maria to finish the war before the sun sets, because it would be disadvantageous for them to fight in the dark. Stone started to feel uneasy, since none of his subordinates returned. He was left with one last squad. And when things started to settle down, they then decided to approach the house, where they found a basement, with the bodies of their friends, and when they were off guard, Maria suddenly appeared and shot them. Meanwhile, when John was in the woods to clear the area, he was suddenly ambushed by Feldspat from behind. A fierce fight then occurred between them. And John was defeated in that fight. On the other side, Maria was also cornered by Stone's subordinates who had just arrived. And wounded Maria was then immediately taken by Feldspat through the tunnel. Soon after, Stone received the report about Feldspat, who ran away with Maria, his main target. Stone went mad, and suddenly shot his subordinate. Stone was fed up, and ordered Granite to capture Maria ASAP. And assassinates John, and Feldspat the traitor. While Feldspat was lost in the tunnels, and when he was frantically looking for a way out, he was suddenly ambushed by John, who turns out to be alive still. And led them to another fierce fight. The fight drove John mad, and forced Feldspat to admit John's strength. Soon after, Maria gets up and invites John to escape the scene, but then Granite and her subordinates have already arrived, and they were forced to do another shootout. And when John's ammo was running low, they then decided to look for a hideout, where they found a secret room, which was able for them to use as a temporary hideout. But then John decided to fight the special forces by himself, and told Maria to hide inside the small room by herself. Maria refused at first, but John insisted. John then immediately went away to look for a way out, but when he had just reached the surface, there was Stone and his subordinates already waiting for him. There Stone talked down to John, and asked him for Maria's whereabouts. But then John told him that he already killed her. Stone wasn't fooled that easily, because he knew precisely that his former colleague before him would never kill an innocent. Stone then ordered his subordinates to torture John, to make him open his mouth. But John's mouth was sealed tight. Stone was frustrated, and ordered his subordinates to shoot John to death. But then John called him a coward instead. John provoked him to a one-by-one fight, which Stone agreed to. Seeing John looking beaten, Stone then talked big as he usually does, and was so sure that he could easily defeat him. But then again, John proved that death was nowhere to be found in his vocabulary. Stone then was killed in that fight. And the death of Stone turns out to make Granite thank John instead. It turns out that she had wanted to be the commander the whole time, because she was tired of Stone's big talks. But then she still decided to kill John. And when she was about to shoot him, Maria suddenly appeared, with 2 grenades in both of her hands, and threatened to release the safety lever if they killed John. Maria then decided to turn herself in, and told Granite to spare John's life. Granite agreed, since Maria was the Special Forces' main objective, and took her away with them. Seeing that, John promised himself to find and rescue Maria. Scene then shifted to a flashback, where Maria kept 3 samples of her blood, and a letter to John, saying that she wanted to donate her blood, for the people in need. And the movie ends. It looks like we need to wait for the sequel. What do you think? Drop in the comments section below. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for future recaps notifications. And if you have any movie you want us to recap, please, do tell us in the comment as well. And until next time,